Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities show. We are recording with about an hour to go in the Friday session. It is Friday, the 18th of August. My name's Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with Barrie Hederachi. How are we doing, Barrie?
Doing very well. Thank you.
Our discussions in July that we were saying August wasn't going to be boring are certainly coming to fruition because
Mhm.
there's even old boring Bitcoin started moving this week, which we'll talk about in a second. On today's show, Barry's going to cover the big five, which includes ES, bonds, gold, crude oil, copper, and the dollar and the euro. I will be covering the commodities, the grains today, coffee, and cocoa. I'll also talk about cotton and nat gas, but they're kind of continuing their sideways. So
Mm.
and talk about sideways, let's talk about Bitcoin. Well,
Right.
Bitcoin for the last, as you can see here, month and a half has just been essentially going sideways. And then as we were discussing out of the blue, bam, last 2 days, big bars, broke the full square support that we were sitting on top of. And more importantly, it broke this trend line. And Barry, if we don't recapture that trend line really quickly, that's going to be trouble. This energy was, built up over a 6-week, 8-week period, and it's starting to unleash. And losing this trend line, which connected the lows over the last sort of 6-8 months,
Mhm.
is significant. And if we do get stuck under the trend line, and secondarily, if we get stuck under this full square, that's going to be no bueno for Bitcoin bulls.
Right.
So I don't know if you have anything to add on there. This is what we were waiting for. If you've been waiting to trade it, now you've got the movement. Now you look at counter trends that fail and basically just fire away.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week. The levels that I think we talked about, it didn't get above, and it definitely broke through the lows, and so here we are. And I have a 90 degrees from the low in November at around 27. Let's say 27,000, just roughly.
Yeah, so
Right,
that's up
it's
here, up
above us a little
here.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right about there.
So I think if we can't really, talk about getting above, we can't even get above that in the next couple 3 days, then I think we're going a lot lower.
I agree.
And the
And,
next level I have down is around 24.
yeah, the level here, the half square where there'll be the initial support in my stuff is around 28.8.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That 28.8 is up here. 28.8 is
Resistance. Uh-huh.
yeah, that's resistance. The support is 24.4.
Yeah, I'm right there. That's around
Yep.
24. Yeah.
Yep. That's what we're looking at.
All
So
right.
let's
Well,
let's throw it over to you because we had a lot of activity this week, and let me throw it over to you and let's dive into it and look.
all right. Let's do
Oh boy, we just picked up that lower trend line, didn't we?
that. Yeah, I mean exactly where it was, right?
Yep.
And
That's
not only that,
beautiful.
we got a little bounce off of it.
Yeah, which is what
Didn't
you want to
quite
see.
get above the levels we talked about this morning on Twitter, which was really like 43.88 was a number that we had to get above in order to really, make a difference. But this is not a bad recovery, right? Buying came in right at the right area, right off the line, and I forgot to actually mention this. We had this little box drawn up from, I guess, what was it, June,
Mm-hmm.
and well, here we are. We can just extend it out. So there it is. That's kind of the support area. And I think if we lose that, then actually we'll have something to deal with, something bigger. But for now, I think this is, this zone 43.25 to 43.70 is kind of a wide zone, but not something that can't be covered in one day, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what we're dealing with. I changed the square. Let me get it back.
There's decent squares came in too on the NQs, which I'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
On a 4 hour, I had like a 45 by 45 from the August 9th high to the low. Monthly half square support was around 43.60, so we tapped that. There's decent evidence starting to mount that we could have a swing low there.
Yeah, I think we're due for something because we've been just sort of doing a slow roll ever since we got the high in place.
Yeah. Then we have the cycles this week. There was a weekly cycle that came up that was calling for a low, and
Mhm.
let's see how the price action goes out of here. If we can get a higher low and a higher high, then we can say, all right, that looks good.
Right. Anyway, we're back. Well, we're at a support. I think we talked about this thing breaking last week, 44.75. And I said if it breaks, well, then we're going to go down to check out this 43.70. If not, we're going to get into the zone, which is really 43.25 in that range. And we got exactly to the middle of that zone, and also caught this trend line that we've had there for months. And there it is. We'll see. We'll have to see how well this holds. But just looking at overall, it looks like we're due for some kind of a bounce because this is a support area. We do have support there. And just to give you guys a quick look at what happened during the week, on a 30-minute scale, not much. We just had a nice downtrending market. And ever since that first, we failed at this 45.15, which was right there. It was basically, we sold off, sideways, sold off, correction, sold off, sideways, sold off.
There's a beautiful check back right there.
Whereabouts?
8:15 in the morning right here, where it went down and then came back and tapped the square from underneath and then lost it.
Oh, yep. Right there. Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
perfect.
We talked about that. Yep, that was a very good check back. Actually, all of these check back nicely, or they would check back on the trend line, like here. We had a nice one.
Half square check back. Yep.
And so anyway, they were all along. It was an easy week, and if you were on the short side or trading the short side, if you were trying to fight this, then probably not a good week.
No,
right? Obviously, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, what we left off intraday was 43.88 was what I put out this morning, and you can see how that held overnight. And if we really can't get above that, then it's still, I would consider, we had good support at 43.45 level, which was 288 degrees from the high on the 27th of July. But if we can't quite get, we got close enough. I would say that's pretty close. Normally, the S&P is known to kind of blow through the level a little bit and then recover, right? So anytime it's a little bit above, I'm a little suspicious unless we get really good follow through afterwards. And we could get that. We have big expiration today. So after options expire, we could bounce off of this area. That's possible. So for next week, I would say, if we can't get above, just basis the daily, if we can't really hold above 43.70, then I'm thinking we're probably going to grind in this 43.25 area, and maybe even go down and check the full square at 90. So that's if we can't really get above and hold above this 43.70 area. It's really the critical number. So I would leave it at that. Now, if we can clear 43.70, then obviously we have about a 100-point run before we get into any kind of resistance. So what does that mean, guys? It means you could have a hell of a run up, very quick and volatile and wild. So be ready. It's possible. Could be hooked into some kind of a news event. And it's possible. Don't we have some Fed things coming up next week?
Jackson Hole next week.
Okay, so it could be something related to that. We could hang around here for a couple of days and then poof. So, but I think 43.70 is a good marker to watch, see if we can settle above it or not, because we go poof down too. So, but it would have to come off of this level, and the price action, like we talked about last week, would tell us which way the break's going to be, and if we can get that at an early point, I think we're going to be okay. And I just want to go back a little bit. I remember when we had these 2 weeks of this sideways, and I can't remember exactly what we said, but we were kind of joking how, when it's sideways like that, we have a directional move setting up just in days ahead, and we said we were watching to see which way the break's going to be, and then we'll have to just take that side and trade it. And so you guys have been watching us. Well, here's what happens, right? We had that big old side with 2 weeks of lull, and then bam, straight down for 2 weeks. So that's kind of how it works. And we talk about counter trends all the time, and you can see how the counter trends, basically all of them were lower lows, lower highs, sort of paving the way. So you can see everything we talked about. It sort of shows up in real time. So I'm just pointing it out. Anything you want to add there, Ben?
No, I think that's perfect analysis.
Yeah, just to, it's good to remember, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to move this trend line down here because there you go.
Nice.
And the reason is that would be like the last catch, right? If that
Yep.
goes, then we'll see. But we do have this space in here for next week. Maybe a little bit of some kind of a little bit of a dance before Jackson Hole. So that's on Wednesday.
I think it's 25th, which is Thursday or Thursday or Friday. I think it is.
Anyway, you guys have the numbers, so those are the levels to watch. I wanted to show, I missed putting this up last week, and I wanted to do it, but I don't know, maybe I was in too much of a hurry. But basically,
good timing.
We had 81 weeks high to high, and the point is that's not a small deal.
No, that's a big
deal. This
is
not the only thing. We had other cycles. We've been talking about it. We talked about all the cycles that expired while we were going, sideways through here. We kept saying, hey, there's a bunch of cycles that expired. So this ought to turn, this leg should end. And if you guys go back and look at those tapes, we talked about it while we were up here. But the one thing that I had noticed, I forgot to bring it up last week, was this high to high 81. And the reason that it's important is, we have, look where the low came in. It's exactly
perfect
square, right?
Yeah.
40 week high to low and a run back up. And both sides squared out. So what does that mean? I think it means this could be a significant high.
Yes, indeed.
The way it's looking now. Yeah.
I had a similar thing on a daily chart. It was 202 days high to low, and then 202 days high to high put us right in that area of the high. So it's exact like you have with that symmetry, high to low, low to high, and it's very beautiful when you find that.
So, I mean, that being the case, so what does it mean? It means, for traders, and you can see, we had this drawn up. You can see how this got the steepest one that we talked about, right? Got taken out first. And then the second steepest one this week. There we go, which opens the door to basically, coming back and checking this, which is around 42.5. Now, I don't know if it has to get that nasty, but it sure would still be an intact uptrend and everything, even if it gets down there. But what it caught my eye was this high back in August. So if we get down there, you can see that we have a 5/8 line or 3/8.
Sure.
Right
good
there.
Good support there.
Yeah. 43.26. Let's say 43.25. So, we'll keep an eye on that basis weekly. So that's a big number. It's not a daily or 30-minute level. So 43.25 would be a good area to stop, and it's still within the upper channel that we're tracking.
And you have that on your daily chart already, so it's corroborating.
Yeah,
43.25 is one of your numbers.
Okay, so that's where it's coming from. Well, it's not coming from here, but that's another number. That's another. Well, like you said, it's a confirmation, right?
There you go.
And the other thing, what's cool about this 81 is, for a quick lesson, so we went 162 low to high, right? Look at that.
Right.
So symmetry wise, this market, with all the nonsense that's been going on since 2020, I mean, look at the geometry go. And we talk about how important weeklies are because, you don't have holidays and missing dates. All the bars are very clean. And you can see the geometry and the symmetry is just unbelievable.
It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting number too, that 81, because it's basically
square 144. Yeah.
Right. And it's basically 1.5 years.
That's right? True too.
155, 1.55 years.
Very cool. And the other sort of the number that nobody really looks at is 63.
Mhm.
62.5, 63, we talk, 101, right? We talk about that. Those
Mhm.
set of numbers. And here, if you subtract 81 from 144, is 63, which is another important number. But anyway, I just want to
I
show
like
here.
that. That's good. That's
Yeah, it's
really
very
good
cool.
stuff.
Went two
Good
squares
stuff.
up, right?
Yep.
In price, and now we have it going over 1 square in time with a half square bounce in the middle. So this is very perfect symmetry. So we'll be using this. Obviously, we'll be using this till it's unusable.
Yeah, keep tracking that one for
Keep
sure.
tracking this one, and look where the half. So 41.50 or so.
Oh, look how important that is.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the
very.
battles that happened there. Wow.
So, and you can, in the daily, it's not that easy to see, but you can see how important that is here on the weekly. So what does that mean? So, basically, we had an ascending triangle that broke to the upside. Great. So here comes a pullback, the check back that we see in 30 minutes or, shorter term time frames. So it's a weekly, it could take a while, but whatever the deal is, by the time, if it gets into this 41, 50, 60 area, that's going to be the next critical
That's key,
level, right?
Yep.
And if it can hold there or above that, anywhere up into 4,200, this box right here, let me do one of the right in there. That's really good support. I wouldn't, I would definitely watch that.
For sure.
Now
you really found the vibration for the weekly. That's too good not to be the correct vibration.
Yeah, otherwise it wouldn't hit, right? So
not like that.
So that's a one, and we'll work with that. So now
that's
guys,
fantastic work.
Thanks. So now everybody knows. Now you guys know what to watch for. We're good there. So on the daily, we kind of have a good idea. 43.70 is what we're keying off of. Basis daily, we really want to hold above that for any kind of a run. And if we do get a plan to hold above that and looks like we're going, then you got at least about 100-point run to the upside till we get any resistance. Actually, it's probably to 4,500. So we have plenty of room up to the upside. Downside, we have 43.25. And then we have this 42.97 right in here. So you can see this, even eyeballing it, that seems to be a big, really important area. Don't even have to make anything up.
No question.
And there's some other squares that give support right into that area. I don't. Oh well, since we have a short run today, let me see where that is. Give me a second. Yeah, so 42.97 is 90 up.
Is the 90, yeah.
From that higher low, not this sort of phantom one. And so that level has proved, because what happened here was sort of proof of that. And the 41.50 area, there is a line here, and you can see right in there we have 50% of the square of 45 coming up. So there's some stuff. There's some stuff there. To the upside we talked about, downside we talked about. So we're good.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to bonds.
Nice week in bonds.
Speaking about trending markets. So, I mean, when we were talking about, when you mentioned last week or the week before, or no, it was the end of July, you said, hey, August is going to be a busy, good week. It's probably not a good month. We're on vacation, right?
So no, it's not. No.
It panned, not this year anyway. So it panned perfectly.
Right.
And bonds are doing great. You guys look at this. Well, we've been on the short side the whole time, but as far as points to bounce off goes, we had the counter trend fail there, broke out of the box, counter trend failed there, and the rest is very easy. It just staying on the short side. And we kept talking about the low in October being checked at some point, and that being the sort of the next target. And this little ABCD tells me that's probably going to be true.
That's right. Yeah,
they're going to pan out like that. So I would expect that to be taken out at some point, or at least checked and false break, then maybe run up and then waste some time before going lower. But the trend is lower. And didn't you have that 40-year trend line on your bond?
Oh yeah, on the monthly,
right?
On the monthly, yeah,
monthly. So these are big deals, and these trends just don't stop just because the daily had a 2-day bounce. So we have to,
Right.
we're going to stay on that. Let's look at the weekly bonds. Well, what we did was we got to the bottom of the triangle, right?
We
The
might
triangle.
see a bounce. I was saying because I had some squares show up on shorter time frames.
Mhm. Well, and we got to the.
Yeah, I didn't know we got to the bottom of that, but yep.
Mhm.
So there could be a bounce here.
There could be a little. I mean, we had an inside week last week. We dropped in. Well, we might get a bounce. We'll see. But
Right.
market's looking weak, man. It's just looking weak. And even if we get a bounce, anything below 123 is just, you can see the overhead here. We talked about it last week, so I don't want to get into it
Right.
now.
Just keep firing.
Yeah, a ton of overhead here. So, when these rallies, when these rallies set up, you can sell them. So,
And with the correlation that's been happening in the markets, Barry, if we get a bounce in bonds, it would support a bounce in stocks. So maybe we do get some sort of counter trend relief rallies in them.
right.
And we watch and see where they fail. And if they fail in the right spots, you just fire again.
Yep. That's what it's all about, right?
That's it.
And going back to, well, let's move on to crude.
Yeah.
Good week. Our little box held.
Yeah.
And
it's a good place to take some profit.
Yep. We talked about it last week, 83. Well, when we were at 73, we were calling for this run up into 83. 83's resistance. We talked about this false break here against that high. And we were expecting some kind of a pullback into the 50%, which was 78. And we got that. And a 3-day stall right above the 50% of the square.
That's a bullish pullback, isn't
I'm
it?
impressed. Yes. And
yeah.
It looks bullish. And the energy and the oil stocks and some of these, even the smaller ones, are behaving pretty well. So it looks okay.
It looks good. Normal pullback, normal bullish pullback.
Normal, very clean, bullish. Now we can even get down to 73.5 or even to this right there, 75, 76. It'll be okay. But this is very bullish. If we can
very bullish
and take a run up.
Yep.
So crude's doing okay. You guys are on the right track. Next, we'll take a look at the weekly. Well, there's that dreaded box. That's probably what held it. But we tapped the 45 from the high, so we're right under that. I would expect market to spend a little bit of time. I mean, if it's within the box, it would be very bullish,
very
long term. I mean, you definitely want to pick up these trades. If we spend a bit of time here and then we break through the 45, you definitely want to. I mean, this is like easy money, right, onto the upside. So that's just there, and that break would be above 85. And that would set up a test eventually of 107, 108. So that's what's set up. But a little consolidation here wouldn't be out of order, like we talked about last week.
Nope.
After we tapped the high here, right? We talked about a consolidation. We got one. So it's just 1 week down. And if we continue up from here, it'll be, I would expect it to be a very strong market.
Agreed.
But so we'll see how it works out next week. Whatever the case, we're not shorting it just yet.
No.
Let's move on to, do you have anything to add to crude, or we're good?
No, I think the analysis is right. It's a normal pullback and it's very bullish so far.
Okay. Let's talk about gold.
This looks like it wants to do some more work on the downside.
Yeah, it looks like that. And what's cool is in all these markets, what a trending week it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm wondering if it's because everybody else is on vacation, but I don't know.
Thin markets run it, right?
Yeah, you wonder why that happens. But anyway, we know what happens in gold. 1940, we couldn't really hold above it, and we eventually broke this XB line from that gauntlet we set up last week. So that was bad news. You break these, we're probably going to go to the other end of it, but maybe not directly. It could take time. So taking that into account, I think 1887 doesn't seem like that far away, but that's a lot of money in gold.
Right.
Seems like the next support level, decent support level. And you can see it's held in the past. You can see it held here. So it's not just another number. It's a decent number. We'll see how it works out, and it opens up the chance to do a false break against that low. So for now, the way the dollar is going and everything, it's possible we get down to this 18-14 area. We got the ABCD that settles in there. So we stay open, but this is really definitely on the weak side for now, right, Ben?
Agreed.
Yep. Looking at the weekly, well, there's an ABCD. So
right. Are we going to chop? The big question for me in gold is just: are we going to chop around and burn off time, or are we going to go down to do the ABCD and sort of clean out the weak hands?
Well, it seems like the markets are more active now. This period, this cycle, your wolf cycle, or what's the cycle that you're calling it? The
rebel yell.
Rebel yell cycle.
Yeah,
I was thinking of wolf howling, but yeah.
It definitely kicked off a lot of volatility. Yep.
And so here we are, right? So I would expect it to continue to trend, but where it did stall was this 1919 on the weekly level. So it is an important point. Well, important enough that if we drop that, the next level is really this 1880 area.
Right.
And if that goes, then we know we're going to go at least make the ABCD. And that will be, I'm sure we can figure out some levels that sets up in there. Maybe for next week, we'll take a look at that since we're so far away.
Sure.
But for now, yeah. If next week, I think if we hold above 1919 somehow, then it's probably going to be a very sort of a sideways consolidation. If we lose that, then I think we have some more downside. Yeah, like we could consolidate in here under that, tapping against the 1940.
Sure.
Or we can just drop down into this next level. Copper is trending in the micro.
yeah.
Sideways in the macro, right?
So, yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, what to do? We broke the trend line, and that's all she wrote. So we'll have to wait till everything settles. I don't know if the downside is finished yet. We did do a false break here, but it didn't look like that was actually a false break because of the way price action. So I think there's more to go. I mean, it would be easier to detect it if we have a false break against this low in May. We'll see if that happens. It's got plenty of room to move around and really not much to trade directionally for now.
No, let it play out.
Yeah. I think it's better to just let it play out. And looking at the weekly copper, look at that. We're starting
holding on.
We start, but first time it came down and took a peek below the line, right? Level.
True. Yeah.
And so we'll see how that plays out. But if it does leave this line and we have, let's say, a high below this line, then I think this weekly ABCD is probably in the works. So
agreed.
Look forward to that. And if that happens, then I think there would be some trading. So for right now, let it kind of settle out, right?
Agreed.
Although we had 3 weeks down at this point. All right. So let's move on to the dollar, which was doing extremely well. Nothing new in the sense this is kind of what we talked about and expected. So it's funny, when that happens, I really don't have a lot to say other than I think the trend is probably going to continue. And now we know this box area was good support, and we know this 1/3 of the square was good support at the 102.70. So, and you can see that sort of what built up under that right there during early part of August, right? So any pullback, I mean, there is good support at 102.50 to 70. So I would keep that in mind. And pullbacks holding at that level is bullish, right? And it's all good.
Yep.
If we somehow get under that, the 102.50 to 70 area, we get down into this below 50, let's say 102.50, then I think it's a longer pause. So we have to pull back and wait till till it moves higher and starts trending again. But this is okay. We're doing okay.
It's doing what it needs to do to be a bullish market.
That's right. It's doing exactly. I just wanted to put this in, see if there's an equal move here, just like we had. Oh my God.
Look at that.
Yeah. I just felt it, and I thought, let me
There it
put that on
is.
there.
Yep.
So so we could have a little pause here, people, and
Mhm.
you can see that we had a little pause over here,
Yep.
which is quarter of the square, by the way, second square, it's a quarter line, that little dashed line. So yeah, maybe a little correction. Hopefully, if we can, like I said, it doesn't matter what's above. If we can hold about 102.50 to 70,
Good
above 70
shape.
would be very bullish,
Mhm.
obviously, and we have this little bit of good support built up. We'll see. And so then for next week, really the strength comes in after we get above 3.5, 103.5.
Mhm.
That's settle above that. And if we can do that, we probably go up and challenge 5.25. All right.
Yep. Yep.
Very good. I'll leave it there. Let's look at the weekly dollar. Well, there you go.
It's
It's
in the
not just
triangle.
it's not just that, right? We also
Yeah.
hit the upper. You know how many things hit the lines this week? Wow.
Yeah.
Did you notice? Like
A lot
almost,
of a lot
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, bonds hit the bottom, dollar
Yep.
hit the top,
Yep.
everything's just moving. So we
So
do have, we do have that big triangle. Um, well, I don't know if that's a triangle, but anyway, we have this down line, we have down channels, what we have there.
yeah,
And
just let it play out and see
yeah,
how it
yeah. I
reacts at
mean,
the
it's been
upper
a good
level.
run, right? And we
Yeah.
haven't had really what I would call a strong correction. And
Again, a weaker dollar would help stocks, and
well, makes sense. You're right.
stronger bonds help stocks. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
all these things are interconnected.
and that's why we do the big five every week, right? We want to
Yeah,
look at these,
sure.
how they
Want to
all kind
see
of correlate.
absolutely. That's
So
good.
here, yeah, we're up against the trend line. So if we do turn down, it wouldn't be a surprise, nor would it
No,
be something negative. It'd just be a normal pullback.
agreed. Let's see what the euro looks like.
Yeah, I was just looking at this. I just wanted to say if any pullback holds basis the weekly chart, if we can hold about this 101, 102 level, I think that still keeps dollar in a very bullish position.
Yep.
Coming off this low.
Hmm.
All right. Going up to the euro. Well, there's another trending market this week.
Yep. Below now, it's below the 144.
That's right. So we talked about this 144 and, if it's going to hold or down or so. Last week we
Hmm.
were talking about it going lower. And so there it is. And not much to talk about. I mean, at a minimum, this 108 area is really support. And I don't even know if it'll hold this time
Right.
because it hasn't really been respected much. What's happened is it's became some kind of a level where price would tend to rotate around. So
Yeah.
we can work with that later. But for now, I think long as we're below this 109, 110, this area, market's definitely
It's a
weak.
sell. Yep.
It's a sell. It's on the sell side for sure.
Hmm.
And so that's that. Weekly euro, same thing. We
Hmm.
were up here. We talked about that two legs finishing up where they were equal
Hmm.
legs, which is what we saw in crude just now, right?
And the dollar. No,
Dollar,
it's
sorry.
yeah, the
We saw
dollar
in dollar
weekly.
just
Yeah.
now.
Hmm.
So you can see, that technique has merit. It's not like,
Yeah.
if you can spot it at the correct places, it has merit. And you can see this one clicked into place, got traction. We are going lower. Previous week, we talked about this outside sort of reversal against the week before. We moved lower this week. So if we take out this week's low, I think that's really the thing to watch.
Sure.
And that low is what? That low is 108,450 around there. If we take that out, well, basically, if we take out this week's low, it's going to be weak, and
Yes.
it could be weak in a hurry. And but we'll see. Or because this 1/3 lines euro does like, and it's possible that we consolidate
Hold and
here,
bounce. Yeah.
yeah, or bounce into 110. And well, Ben, another trending market this week.
Yes, sir. We talked about this last week. We said we had the first pullback. This could be a fast move lower. And there you go. Let me get rid of this trend line. We broke that.
Yep. Well, that was sort of the warning, right?
Yeah, yeah. The warning was the break, and then here's the pullback, right? Fails at full square resistance, and then you get the sell-off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, as we're talking about a lot of things, at inflection points on lines and stuff like that, from here to here is 45 degrees. So that's a
Perfect.
45 degree run, which a lot of times will give a respite and sort of a bounce higher. The thing we want to watch on the bounce is where do we go? Do we fail here at the half square, which
Mhm.
is, 14,955? Do we make it all the way back to the full square here, which failure there would just be beautiful. So that's what we want to watch. If we do get a bounce, right? I mean, you can see today's bar is nice. It's what we're well off the low. If we get a higher, if we have a reversal bar on Sunday night, Monday, that'll be the first sign. Then we want to see how does it handle this resistance, and then if it gets through there, how does it act up here at the full square? But as Barrie showed, on I think it was your ES weekly, we've broken the steep trend line. That's the first warning shot. We're coming down. If we do flush a little more, you've got the full square down here, around 14,350. And then you've got this rising trend line off the low as well. So I think we want to watch the character and the price action in this next counter trend, because it's going to tell us a lot about where the opportunities are going to be for the next trade. Anything else to add here? I guess the other thing to look at, the low came right on top of this little cluster, which
Right.
is exactly where it should structure wise.
Mhm.
So that's a good spot to have that low. Anything else you want to add here on the NQs?
Well, I think now, we've flipped over to the downside. So anything below, I don't know, 15,400 or so,
Yeah, which is right
which
up
is right
here.
around your 15,
Yeah, right in
right in
here.
there. So
Yeah.
below that level, we're definitely weak.
Yes.
And counter trends failing, anything below that, them failing, it's probably, well, it just points towards more weakness.
That's right. It gives you a good setup, good risk reward, good odds that the downside is going to work out if you have a nice setup risk reward wise.
Yep.
So until further notice, that's what we do there.
Mhm.
Now let's talk about the commodities. So what we're going to talk about and actually review, we're going to review the grains, and we're going to review two softs, cocoa and coffee. But the interesting thing, Barrie, and I haven't done this ever since the bull market in commodities started, we're going to look at a
Mhm.
short for a commodity.
Right.
And I think it's one of these cases where, like you and I were talking earlier in the week, the setup is just too good. I can't
Mhm.
resist it, right? The risk reward, the structure, everything is set up so favorably that I wanted to share it with people. So we will
Mhm.
do that. There's two that I'm not going to cover in depth, but that I still want on your radar and want you to watch, and that's cotton and nat gas. They've continued to, base in a sideways pattern with higher lows and higher highs. So the bullish action is there. It's just they're still stuck going sideways. So there's nothing to review for us there. I mean, the weekly and monthly on both are still in triangles, but it's every week that passes, every day that passes where they continue to do this sort of bullish consolidation. It's just building up more energy for the eventual breakout. So you want to keep your eye on those as well. But let's go to the grains. Okay, here's wheat. Nice reversal bar today, close on the high. This is a higher low than this low here. Not by a tremendous amount, but it's there.
Mhm.
And that to me says, okay, pay attention, because we had this first thrust up, we had a sharp pullback, and now we've gotten this reversal bar, which is what we were looking for to pay attention. On a 4-hour basis, Barrie, from a high to low, we did 90 by 90. So that's a really good
Yeah.
square.
And
That
that's a
was
good response to that, reaction to that.
a very good reaction to it. On the daily here, we've done roughly 45 down by 18.
Mhm.
So I just like the reaction. And then when we see a bar like that, then you start going and seeing, do we have good squares? Because then that gives you even more confidence. I also wanted to show you the monthly on wheat. So we came down. This trend line was drawn in, when this low came in and we reversed off of there.
Mhm.
Look at the low this month so far, right on the trend line, and we're above half square resistance. We
Right.
closed above it today. So again, it's what gives me a little more confidence in in the wheat and what we could see from wheat
Right.
going forward. All right, let's go to anything you want to add here, by the way, before we shift over to cotton. I mean,
Well, I mean, yeah, it
corn.
looks we have a higher low, and we're looking for some type of a low in here, but we haven't really started the uptrend yet. We're still consolidating near the lows, so to keep that in mind. And I think if we can somehow get above like 664, 665, I think that's when we can probably get back onto the uptrend.
Right, and I think that's probably the half square here. Yeah, I'm 653 there, so in that area.
Yep.
Yep, it's early. The grains are early, but I try to give you guys a heads up early. Here's another one, corn. Now, why are we saying corn? Because it just made its low this week, right? It made a lower low, and I'm going to show you on the weekly what was important here. This low and reversal on a weekly basis, Barrie, did 90 down.
Ah, okay. Well, that's important.
It's very important. And then the other thing I wanted to show you. So this is 90 down, and look at where the low came in.
Yeah, look at that support back in
2019.
Summer of 19. Yeah, yeah.
Right on those highs.
That's
So while wheat was early, we did have a higher low there and a reversal. Here, we don't have a higher low yet. We just have the reversal, but the structure and the fact that we did a 90 down, again, I want to alert you to it. It looks like along with soybeans and wheat, which did make higher lows, corn is going to follow along.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's your weekly. The structure was very important, and this 90 down was also important. That I thought important enough to mention it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add other than it's early?
Well, I had a 90. You had a 90 on the weekly. I had a 90 from the June high to this low.
Mm-hmm. From here, right?
Yep, there to the low. So we'll watch. It needs to, obviously actually start trading a little bit higher. But for now, it's good to know that we could potentially have a low here. So
absolutely. So keep your eyes on corn. All right, let's go to beans. Beans is the best looking one of all of them because here we have no doubt that we have a higher low, right? Wheat, it was a marginally higher low. This is a higher low. Couldn't even get down to the half square right here. And we've got not just one reversal bar, but two reversal bars closing on the high today. So beans to me look the best of all the grains. This pullback was 45 down, it's 45 by 30, which is a decent square.
Yep.
So to me, it's like the last 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't mention grains. We didn't cover them at all because they just looked like they were still on sale. This week, the reason I'm highlighting them, it's not that they're going to explode next week, but the money started coming back into them, and they all made these signs of with squares and the price action after the squares that the selling is done, this leg is over, and we could be starting the next leg higher. Anything else to add on beans here?
No, well, I think I think you got it good. We're good.
Okay. All right, let's go to our short. This is an interesting one. Okay, so you're saying, why are we going to short this thing? It's been a monster, right? We called this thing out in November, December, January that it was breaking out of this huge base, and there's your move and there's your follow through. Okay, there's multiple things we're going to look at. The important things are this is a false break, right? That means something ended here, right? We made a new high and then reversed hard on the same day and closed near the lows. Then we've had a pullback, and now we have this move higher. This is the first reaction after this pullback. If we can't get above this full square, and right now we're failing at this harmonic balance point, which is also important. But if we can't get above this full square and we reverse and make a lower high on a daily basis, which means taking out this low right here, which is, what is that, about 34.18. You take that out, the worst you're going to get is like an ABCD. The odds favor that. The best you're going to get is a potentially fast move down where you take out this trend line. The other things to notice here, on a daily, we did 180 by 225 from here to here. So we did 180 up. and 225 in time, which is a good square.
I was just going to mention that, but you got it.
Yep. So that's a great square on the daily. On the weekly, we did a 90 by 45. And on the monthly, we did a 45 by 11. So that gives us a 45, a 90, and a 180. Those are significant squares. I think the setup is fantastic here, and it's worth a shot. Even though, again, longer term, the commodity complex is pretty bullish. I know this is kind of outside of your bailiwick in terms of how you do your trading, Barrie, but what do you think in terms of the setup here? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good trade. It depends on what level of risk you want to take. And I think as soon as we take out the low of the, me, right? As long as we take out the low of the high bar, which would be yesterday's low.
Right here. Yep.
Yep. I think we're good to go. And the stop will be above the high. That's one way. I think the safer trade would be obviously when he takes out the swing low, which is down by 33.15 or so.
Right in there. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so those are the 2 points. And the downside, I mean, we can get down into the full square. That wouldn't be out of reason.
That is actually one of the targets. The other target would be right in here in this congestion around 3,100.
Mm-hmm.
3,000, 3,100.
The fact that it's squared out, that means, we could at least have, 3 months down wouldn't be surprising.
No, let's just see where this ABC would go if we do get a reversal here. Right down to the full square.
There you go.
Yep. So it's an idea. It's one to look at. I think even if you don't trade it and even if you don't take it or, because you don't do cocoa or you don't want to short or you don't want to buy puts, looking at the numbers and how we sort of analyze whether this makes sense from a geometry standpoint, structure, market structure, and then price action. All three are coming together in this setup. And that's why I wanted to point it out to everybody. All right, let's jump over to get off the dark side and go back to the light side and look at coffee. Okay, why are we looking at coffee? We don't even have a reversal bar here yet. So I was debating on whether even to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it for a reason, which I'll show you on the weeklies and the monthlies. So a lot like we came down, and so far we've got a higher low, right? Here's your low back in January. If we stop here and reverse next week on this full square, it'll give us a higher low. Right, so we had the first thrust up, we got a pull back here, and that pullback is making a higher low on full square support. The weekly, let's look at the weekly. Why do I like the weekly? Look at where we close, Barrie.
Mm-hmm.
Higher low on the weekly, close on the line. As long as this line holds, that's bullish, right? The first time down, they could push through it, but they still couldn't get a close under it. This time, a little less push through, right? Less than an eighth they pushed through, and we're still holding the line. So to me, that's a decent sign here for this. Also, let's look at the monthly basis. Look where we closed.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, this trend line was drawn in 2020, right? Connecting this low with this low. And the beginning of 2021, late 2020. And look where the low came in today, or this month, the lows come in. On the half square, on the trend line. Mm-hmm. So because of that confluence, I think we go back to the daily. We wait for a reversal in the daily. And if we get a reversal, this thing looks pretty bullish. Now, to be really bullish, we got to start taking out a higher high, right? So we got to take out this high. So basically this half square is what we would want to say, okay, that's the all clear now, right? Because we've got a higher low compared to here, and now we got a higher high compared to here. And we will take out trend lines as well. So it's early on coffee. It's a lot like the grains, but I wanted to point it out because of what's going on a weekly and monthly basis in this commodity as well. Any comments on this, Barrie? I know this gets close to knife catching, which gives you the willies.
Well, my only thing is the January low. I mean, the coffee is pretty famous for doing false break. So January low could be tested, and that would be still fair play. And
Absolutely.
if it gets taken, if we hold above that right at the line here and start moving higher, I think we can expect a very strong market. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's it from the commodity side. This week I think I'm going to hold back our questions, Barry, because I have a question, but it's going to take a lot longer discussion.
Okay.
And I think having people also suggest topics that they're interested in. The one that I want to talk about next week is how do you handle different time frames for the same market?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
It's really good, and I think it's a source of confusion for a lot of people because if you're focused on a 4-minute chart and I'm looking at the weeklies, we could be looking at the same market and have totally different conclusions as to what makes sense.
Right. Yeah. We'll talk about that next week.
So I think we'll pick up on that next week. I think this week we got to watch all of these markets, because in Barry's analysis, we saw the interconnectedness in a lot of these markets where a lot of them looked like, they're making lows or they're making highs, and it makes sense when you look at all the different markets, what they may do next. So this week we want to watch and see, do we get the bottom in risk in the ES and NQ? Do rates, bonds bottom here and rates stop going up? Are the commodities, are the grains going to get, catch a bid and stop the selling that we've seen there? What about gold and silver and copper, the metals? What about crude? I mean, there's a lot to watch because it's all moving in sync with sort of the dollar and bonds leading the way. So I think we got to watch everything closely this week. And again, I don't believe it's going to be a boring week. Where's your focus going to be this week, Barry?
Well, it'll be on pretty much everything that ran up into a corner.
Right.
Which would be the big five, watching everything, S&P, obviously the dollar, not gold, but not kind of gold isn't doing much, but everything else. I think it's a good time to watch. It's the middle of the month, almost at the end of the month. It's a good time to watch, everything for changes. Like we're seeing, look at even coffee is coming into a low. A lot of things are at corners, not necessarily midway. So I think it's going to be kind of eyes wide open kind of a week.
Yep. Well, great show, Barry. Terrific review. I love that 81 on the weekly ES. That's a great find. I think that's really a good vibration there. So, Barry, have a great week. Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Good job, Ben. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Everybody, we'll catch you next week.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.